So this little one is 12 weeks old now, and he's just had a bottle and he's on me just after his burp, having a little cuddle. My oldest son is now 19 months, coming up to 20 months, and I thought I would do a video. I was actually going to do a house tour today and show the Christmas decorations and the house looking relatively neat and tidy after my mother-in-law came to visit on Friday. However, I'm not feeling very well, so I thought I would talk a bit more about that and why that is and what's happening. So with Edward being nearly 20 months, I guess I was pregnant over 2 years ago, and with him, I was suffering from morning sickness until I was about 17 weeks, and I would vomit with him like all the time. Are you going to say something? So I'd be like walking around, and I think one day my record was I had vomited like 33 times before 12 o'clock. So that happened until I was 17 weeks, and then I had 2 and a little bit good weeks, and that was the only time in the whole pregnancy that I had 2 good weeks, basically. So at 19 weeks, and I think it was 5 days, I went to the doctor because I felt like I had a bladder infection. So I remember walking down the laneway. I went to feed the cows. It was really hot, and I think I went out to actually check their water. I remember like vomiting all down the laneway, but it didn't feel like morning sickness. I just felt really off, and I was having really bad like pains. So I went to the doctor to check if it was a bladder infection, and they said that it was, and if it got worse, to go back to them, because apparently in pregnancy it can be a bit more serious than just having like a standard sort of bladder infection. So I went home that afternoon and I felt really, really sick, and I just kept getting more and more pain, and it was like in my back. It wasn't like the usual sort of like just sore wee kind of thing. So I ended up going to the local hospital about 6 hours later, and I went there and I ended up being transferred by ambulance to the hospital that my obstetrician was at. And it turns out that I had a kidney infection or pyelonephritis, and I stayed in the hospital I think for about 5 days that first time. After that, for the rest of the pregnancy, I had recurring bladder infections and kidney infections, and did he just vomit on me? No, he's sucking his hand. And I ended up, I think I ended up with 5 admissions to the hospital for multiple day stays to be put on a drip and have painkillers and fluids. So I had a pretty rough pregnancy with Edward. It wasn't that easy. I probably felt pretty off a lot of the time. But I did get to have lots and lots of scans to see him. So when I was in hospital and I was sick, like every time I went in there, they would scan the baby, and I'd have proper ultrasounds and scans and make sure that he was okay. And I felt like the whole way through, I don't know why, I felt like I knew that he was okay. I didn't really worry about him for some reason. I just felt like I knew that he was okay, that my body was not working because it was making sure he was okay. I can't explain the feeling, but I never really had that worry about him. I mean, obviously I had the general pregnancy worries, but it wasn't this massive stress that he was sick. And I think because we had so many scans and checked him, and he was doing really well, and he was way bigger than he should have been. I mean, not should have been, but you know, he was looking great, and he always seemed happy and active, but he was always kicking me, and he was always kicking me in the bladder, and it felt like in my right kidney. So I saw a urologist, and I had my obstetrician basically on call, and I knew all the staff at the hospital pretty much, and yeah, so that was rough. So Edward ended up coming out at 37 and 3 weeks. I had a cesarean with him because I was struggling really bad, and then with William, I got pregnant 9 months later, and I was told not to have another kid for at least 18 months. So I kind of figured that was 18 months. By the time he was out, it was 18 months. But we took ages to get pregnant with Edward, ages and ages, like years. And we didn't think we'd get pregnant that quickly, and it kind of happened first go. So that happened, and I found out I was pregnant on the 3rd of January this year. And we had a bit of a crappy, rough year to start with Cam's dad passing away and unexpectedly and all sorts of things like that. So I hadn't been that well. I remember getting my first bladder infection at 4 weeks and 3 days, and we were basically like planning his dad's funeral, and I was not feeling well, and I thought, is this what it's going to be like? So I started on antibiotics early and stronger ones to try and keep it at bay, but I kind of figured that it was going to be rough. And I think I only ended up being admitted twice in this pregnancy. I'm pretty sure it was only twice, 2 or 3 times in this pregnancy. And I had a rough pregnancy. I had morning sickness. Actually, not like, it was different. I thought that William was going to be a girl because I felt really different. So the morning sickness I had, I wasn't actually sick. I just felt constantly nauseous. And I actually preferred the being sick, because it feels like you kind of got it out and you got somewhere. Whereas with this one, I just felt off. And it was, again, literally like 17 weeks to the day that I felt really average and really tired. And I was like, what the heck am I doing? Why am I having another one? I was so exhausted. And Edward was going through a really rough patch. We just moved house, and that was really, really stressful as well. And Edward was feral. He was just awful for a couple of weeks there. The tantrum started. He was teething. He was biting me for a week. So I was really like, what am I doing? I did not want another kid. I don't know what I was thinking. And then the pregnancy progressed, obviously, and I wasn't feeling great. And then 3 weeks before I was due, 3 weeks before my expected due date of my Caesar, which was the 22nd of September, I started getting what I thought were contractions. So I ended up going to the hospital and being checked over, and they weren't contractions, thankfully. So he wasn't coming early, but they were basically the same as contractions without anything happening. It was my uterus being really upset and really angry, and it had just had enough, basically. I was really struggling. After that with the constant pain, and I ended up having my Caesar date brought forward because I was not coping. It was brought forward to the 3rd of September, so it was a big difference. It was like 2 or 3 weeks difference, and he ended up coming out at 37 weeks. So he had to go to special care because he wasn't doing so with his breathing for a little while, but we had been warned that might happen. So I knew he was being looked after really well and what might have happened. So I didn't get to give him proper cuddles for a little while, which was very hard. Are you going to stop making your noises now? You got the chats. So anyway, so after the pregnancy, after I'd had him, the pain never really stopped. And in fact, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. So I was seeing my obstetrician, who's basically like my best friend now. I talked to him all the time. I was going in every week again, actually probably more than that, on a lot of pain relief, trying different things, trying different pills and stuff to try and get my uterus to settle back down. And long story short, it hasn't. So I've been sent to see a professor in gynecology, oncology, and it's not cancer related, but that's what he does. And I am now booked in to have a full hysterectomy in a few, 10 days now? So my uterus hasn't contracted down to the normal size that it should have. It's still really enlarged. I spoke with my neurologist yesterday, and it's basically crushing my bladder, my bowel, my spleen, and something else. And it's not the right shape, it's not the right size, it's not doing what it's meant to, and it has to come out. So I had 2 weeks to make sure I was okay with the decision, and I don't want any more kids, and I knew it was the right thing to do, but I really struggled with saying yes to doing it, because I feel like as soon as you're told you can't have something or do something, like have another kid, that's what you want to do. I think it's just, I don't know if it's just me. He's got the chats. But I really struggle with it. You know, part of me would love to have a little girl, even though I don't want more kids, and I couldn't cope, and I wouldn't survive being pregnant, basically. I've been told that the chances of me surviving the pregnancy, let alone the baby, are very, very small. And being told by the urologist and the professor and my obstetrician that this is what I need to do to feel better and be able to play with my children and not be in pain all the time. It was still really hard for me to come to terms with saying, let's do it. It's a big thing. And then I've been reading up about it, and the recovery seems a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. I kind of thought it would be like having another Caesar, which I feel like I'm a pro at after 2. So yeah, I'm just a little bit worried. I'm a little bit scared, and I think I'm more scared of not knowing. I'm not knowing where I'm going. It's a different hospital. It's, an hour and a half away, and I don't really know the people that are doing the surgery. I'm not comfortable not knowing where I'm going and not knowing all the nurses and not knowing that I can have a laugh with them, because that's how I deal with being worried about things and all these things going through my mind that really don't matter. And, it's just kind of, that's where my head's at. So I'm really enjoying having cuddles with this little one and my oldest son while I can, because I'm not going to be able to pick them up for a while after the surgery. Right there. I don't know where he's off to. And just trying to relax and accept this decision. I felt like it was taken out of my hands because I was told that I had to have it done. And then also being given that, you have to come to terms with it. Are you okay with it? It's like, well, when you're told you're doing something and then told, but you have to make the final call, it's like, I don't know. I wish I could explain more how I felt about it, but I'm okay with it now. I really am. I'm looking forward to it. I've had a really, really rough day today with the pain. I haven't gotten out of bed, as you can see. I couldn't get the Christmas tree up yesterday because I felt so yucky, and that is my favourite day of the whole year. I look forward to it. I've been looking forward to it. I've been buying stuff online for months for it. And, I wasn't up to it, and that's showing how much I'm missing out. I can't play with Edward like I should be. I'm not running around. I think this video's done with this little one. So yeah, that's where I'm at.